So at this festival, you would find about 10 hot air balloons, over 30 of the area's best food and craft vendors, libations, live music, amusements, and more, like kids' activities and things like that. Throughout the weekend, we expect to attract approximately anywhere between 10 to 20,000 people. Admission is $15 at the gate, and prior to 2 weeks before the event, we provide the opportunity for people to purchase tickets at a 50% discount through Eventbrite, and admission is free for kids 12 and under. So it's a very family-oriented event that we're excited to put together.
So we have a number of emails which I'm going to have at get ready to read. I'll ask the first question, then we'll read the emails so you can respond to them.
I'm not sure I still have them.
Okay.
Okay, I am. Where are you parking these cars?
The parking will be on the airport property, and it'll be if you're in the office facing out towards the field, it'll be to the top right corner. So it'll be off that side road that runs along.
Right, and how many cars can fit there?
Probably about 5,000 at a time.
5,000 cars in that area?
I think so, but I don't think we would need to host that many there.
Okay.
Probably maybe a few thousand at a time,
Okay.
at most.
I have a couple of other questions. Should we do this now, or?
Yeah, let's do the emails first, just so we can get those into the record.
This one, you want me to read
Yeah,
that?
yeah, and then I've got the other ones here.
Okay.
So you want to do Marcia?
Oh, sure. From Marcia Stammel, regarding local balloon festival, dear Steve, from Select Board. First of all, congratulations on last night's victory.
You can skip that.
Okay. I wanted to register a serious alarm about the proposed Berkshire Balloon Festival. Except for the random rogue helicopter, I'm far enough away from the airport not to be bothered by the bike and ride, unlike many of my neighbors. But this event scares me, and I'm flabbergasted at whomever has so little regard for public safety as to propose balloon festival here. For years, I was lucky enough to drive past the New Mexico Balloon Fiesta on my way to work in Albuquerque and see parts of the daily mass ascensions from my office window. I've also been lucky enough to see the solitary balloon lift off from the airport here in Great Barrington. Gorgeous. I'm sure the airport is not going to host the hundreds of balloons that gather in Albuquerque. If they do, the town's in big trouble. But balloon festivals of any size are not appropriate for a place as densely populated as Berkshire County. There are often accidents. Balloons get hung up on wires or lose the wind and come crashing down. There's danger of fires. A Mount Washington friend who was assigned to film the balloons in New Mexico was witness to an airborne balloon death by fire so horrific he would never take that assignment again. Finally, there's the balloon culture. Cocaine and propane is how one balloonist friend described it, or more legally, champagne and propane. Balloonists are free to assume their own risks. That's none of my business, but as you know, I care about public safety. In New Mexico, the balloons ascend at the edge of the desert. There's practically nothing between the launch grounds and Santa Fe for 65 miles to the north, not even a roadside gas station. When balloon accidents happen there, they don't hurt innocent bystanders. Please be very careful about approving a balloon festival in such a populated area as our town and our county. It's a very irresponsible proposal, and approval could put our town as well as citizens at risk.
Next.
From Cheryl-Leen. You also get me congratulated on your reelection. I'm sorry to have to be writing you right away about an agenda item tonight. We are not able to attend the meeting and are more alarmed by the permit application for the balloon festival. The first link below is put on by the same people, VAP Events, that are coming for the permit here. Both of the events listed without exhaustively researching a bunch more are 3-day ones, like what has been applied for, with lots of food trucks and music going into the night. One is being held at the Tri-County Fairgrounds. The other is listed on the spacious grounds of the Greenfield Community College. This applicant should be redirected to the old fairgrounds if they want to do something like that in GB. It is totally inappropriate for the airport because of the size, because of being an airport, and because of it being in a residential area. Thank you for taking care of this, Cheryl-Leen. Is there another one?
That one.
Did we do that one? No.
No, we didn't do that.
This one from Ann Fredericks. Dear Select Board members, it has come to my attention that you will be considering 3 permits tonight, number 6 D&E for August events in our neighborhood. The proposed events have a misleading title, Berkshire Balloon Festival. In fact, this would be a mini Woodstock that happens to also have hot air balloons. Since balloons only take off at dawn and dusk, the primary activity would be loud music, selling food and booze with other entertainments in a residential neighborhood. Please see below a link for a link to similar events this summer in neighboring areas. As proposed, this would be a for-profit event at the airport organized by a company from Connecticut for the owners of the airport, none of whom have primary residences in Great Barrington. The profits would go to the airport and the organizers. Revenues would not flow into the town of Great Barrington coffers or to anyone who lives in GB. In fact, it would be the residents of Great Barrington who would bear the brunt of noise and traffic, along with the expense required for police and fire departments to monitor the event. It is relevant that the proposer's website states that balloons will go 5 to 15 miles with chasers following in trucks to pick up the passengers and balloons when they land. In other words, will these balloons be landing in our farm fields or in our backyards? Chasers on the streets at the height of the tourist season? This is an additional concern. There is nothing appropriate about flying balloons in this densely populated town. The airport primarily consists of 61A land. This land is not meant to be used as a parking lot, which is how it is used for airport events. We continue to be concerned with that the airport sits on top of the town's aquifer, the source of drinking water for thousands of people, and on the banks of the Green River, our backup source of water. As we all know, we have not found a backup source of water for Great Barrington, in spite of attempts to do so. The airport is not and should not be allowed to be a venue for events like this. Please vote no, do not allow an event like this in our town. If, however, you think there is a benefit to the town, the fairgrounds was built for just this type of activity and is zoned for commercial use.
Do you want to respond to any of them? You don't
Sure,
have to.
I mean, I took a couple of notes. I can respond to a few things. I noticed that a few of the emails say that it's inappropriate for the airport to host a balloon festival, whereas this is actually considered an aviation activity and it's FAA regulated. So these pilots who fly the hot air balloons, they actually have to go through a pretty tenuous, program where they have to learn how to fly. I mean, they're not, just coming from nowhere. They've been doing this for over, 30, 40 years. They are considered pilots. So actually they run a very large balloon festival down in New Jersey that attracts about 250,000 people, that they've been running for about 40 years. That's sponsored by Quick Check, which is a big grocery store down there. But I mean, they have a $2 million budget balloon festival. We have, this is gonna be probably a much smaller scale balloon festival. But I mean, there have been other festivals that do take place at airports, and it's actually much safer than they would be at the fairgrounds. And also the fairgrounds doesn't really provide an ideal location because of, if balloons take off and they need to make a landing right away, just because they see that the wind's shifting in a certain direction, they're either gonna land at Big Y or, they're gonna land in the hills. So it's not very safe to be located there. And then in terms of profits, the last email mentioned that profits would not be brought into town, or there would be no gain for the town, but this event actually, like we mentioned, brings 10 to 20,000 people. So these are people who are paying local hotels or paying local Airbnbs, homeowners to stay in the area. When they're not, when they're not at the event, they're gonna be at local restaurants, they're gonna be at local businesses, so it actually brings a lot of profits into town because it's, a big event, so.
Okay, questions?
Yeah, actually, I just was curious about your references. Is there another event that you've produced that we can check on and see how that went and how that, what the feedback was?
Sure. Yep.
So, could you tell us, give us
Yep.
an example
So,
of something that you've produced that is on this scale?
Sure. Well, the event, when we ran it last year, we also run the Northeast Balloon Festival, which this year is going to take place July 12th through 14th at the 3-County Fairgrounds in Northampton. And so the first year we ran it was last year, and we ran it at the Hampshire Dome in Milford, New Hampshire, which is actually a lot more densely covered with trees and other potential hazards that were mentioned in the emails. This area is actually a lot more safer. But we ran the event there, and we had about 15,000 people come. And since it's not as popular of an area, it's kind of, just in the middle of nowhere. We think we would have a better turnout at this location. But But yeah, I mean, we ran it there, everything went smoothly, we had about 8 hot air balloons. They actually noted that it was the highest percentage of flights that have taken off at a balloon festival in a long time, because we actually had all of the flights in the morning and in the evening go off. So it was very successful and everyone was really happy, and that was at the Hampshire Dome in Milford, so.
So it's VAP events as well?
VAP events, yep.
VAP, so we can look that up and get feedback on how those.
Yep, and you can look on, at the website, you can look on the Facebook and the event to see the feedback, look on social media. If you need a direct contact there, I can provide that to you. I don't have it with me right now.
The other question I had is that we have down, car show, wrestling, helicopters, live band, fireworks. So, for me, it just seems like it's a lot more than just balloons, and I'm just wondering, is it weighted more towards adult entertainment and less towards aviation? Because once you start throwing wrestling in, I'm kind of saying, well, what's what's really the point of this?
Well, the reason for the additional entertainment is that it's actually the safest time for balloons to fly is either very early in the morning or very late in the afternoon. So when people come to the event, they're looking for other things to do between pretty much 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. So that's why we like to have other activities available. The airport actually had suggested having a car show there because it's just a good layout with the runway and it's easy to park cars there. In terms of wrestling, we have other events that we do in Connecticut where we have wrestling, and they've worked at local county fairs, and people seem to be really attracted to it. It's it's a family friendly. I mean, it's not dangerous. It's not MMA. It's like WWE wrestling.
So how many balloons are we talking?
The balloons we're looking to have probably about 10 hot air balloons, and again, they don't really. They aren't very active until 4 in the afternoon, and that's because of the. Again, we had the pilot. We were supposed to be here at the last meeting. And the pilot had come, but he can explain better. I think it's just the pressure in the atmosphere. It's just safer for balloons not to take flight because of the heat during the daytime. I have no idea.
So it's more kind of a music festival with balloons rather than a balloon festival.
No, it's a balloon festival because we have flights in the morning. So in the morning at 5 a.m. we have flights. All the balloons do flights. And then in the afternoon we have flights again. And then we have a balloon glow. We have tethered rides. We have walk-in balloons where a balloon lies on its side and it's inflated by a fan and people can actually walk inside of the balloon, which is really neat. They do meet and greets throughout the day. So there always is a balloon on site, but they just can't fly because, again, it's just not safe for them to fly during the daytime. So it's around 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. that they do the actual balloon flights.
Can you tell me what a glow balloon is? I was reading
Sure.
about the event you're having in Northampton, and so I was just curious about.
Sure, so the balloon glow is pretty much when it gets dark, the balloons, they're lighting their fuel and they light up. But it's neat, we like to play music and they actually synchronize their glowing. So they'll synchronize it along to the music at night, and then there will also be tethered rides going through the night. So it's just really neat to see the balloons glowing in the dark, and some of them are going up and down, and they're all
I just want
long.
through the night. You mean until the 10 p.m. cutoff?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that just to clarify for people
Mhm.
that are listening.
Right, yep. So this
Um,
event, so the event actually starts, or it would start on Friday from 3 p.m. to 10 p.m. And then on Saturday, we would start at 5 a.m. and go till 10 p.m. And then again, Sunday, 5 a.m. to 8 p.m. So on Sunday, we do end earlier.
Okay, I would assume that the permit asks for until 10 p.m. on Sunday. I would assume that is not accurate if you're saying you're ending at 8. Is that
Right,
correct?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're ending.
Um,
We just say 10 just because we're going, like,
it takes time to clean up.
yeah, exactly, so.
Okay, I have a list of questions, is that okay?
Yeah, keep going.
I see that you're gonna have 5 porta potties, and that's what the
Mhm.
DRT from their meeting with you, the staff, when you met with them, they asked for at least 5 porta potties must be provided on site during the event. I just wanna make sure that at least one of those is ADA compliant. that
Oh,
you
right,
have a
we do have a
handicap.
wheelchair
Yeah.
accessible,
Um,
handicap accessible.
I do have questions about, I'm sure you're gonna bring this up too, there was a question on the DRT about making sure that propane filling was acceptable for the fire chief. I also wanna make sure it's acceptable for any sort of spill that may happen beyond that in terms of it being our water overlay district, so I don't know how to follow up on that. And then just some more information about the fireworks, when you're gonna be doing them. If you are gonna be doing them, I live in the neighborhood and I have many neighbors who are veterans and fireworks are really hard for them. So just making sure if they do happen, that there's a way to make sure that everybody that lives in that neighborhood is notified beyond the fact that there's just noise going on and so they know there's an event.
Right, I think we decided just not to do it this year. I mean, it's something that we could look into next year. It's just, I think, too late in the planning stages now to really build up our budget for that. But that's something we'll definitely consider for next year, like if we even consider it, because,
So we'll just, I
yeah.
think that's if
Right.
we go ahead, if next it's a success and you look at it for next year, we need to just figure out a way to make sure that people are notified that that's happening.
Right, okay.
And then is there camping? Did I hear that? Did I see that for any of the other events?
There wouldn't be camping at this festival. There is camping available just because the other one we have at the fairgrounds where they have that available. But there's really no infrastructure at the airport for that, like hookups for RVs.
What are the hours for the music?
So the music would start as early as 10 a.m. and would go as late as 10 p.m. The balloon glows pretty much go anywhere between 8 or 9 to 10 p.m. So usually during that time we actually have we won't have live music. It'll be just recorded music related to flying. So or just other songs that again the balloons will synchronize their lighting to. So we'll be able to monitor that if we need to, keep the volume lower or, if there's an issue with that.
And helicopters is on?
Oh, no, I don't think we would be doing that.
No helicopters.
So will there be no flights to and from the airport during the period of this festival time? That would be
Right, the
correct.
airport is closing all of their activity for the weekend.
And no road closures? That was also was a question mark about road closures.
Yeah, we weren't planning on closing the roads. We had sent over the parking plan, but yeah,
I mean, there's certainly, the speed limit right there is 50 miles an hour, so there's definitely gonna be need that at that intersection of Seekonk and 71. I live not right there, but very close to right there, and people drive very fast, so I think you're hopefully continuing to work with the police, but I think detail is gonna be needed for the full length of the event at that intersection specifically to keep it safe, for people that are walking, for balloons, for chase cars, for regular traffic, because that's a main throughway to get to the New York State interstate.
Right, yeah, we would probably have an officer there at that intersection as well as probably just near the parking area, just in case there's any issues, just to make sure someone can be there on time. And then we also have, the airport's actually managing the parking. So they have a plan because they've done events before, so they, I believe they'll be able to handle it, so.
Bill, go ahead.
Yeah, I just have an issue with the airport as an event venue. I mean, we had a couple of things for the Rotary there, we had the Bike and Fly.
Yep.
They're all 1 or 2 day events. This sounds much bigger. And I just don't see the airport as an appropriate venue for this sort of thing. That's my 2 cents.
I must say I have grave concerns about bringing 5,000 to 10,000 people into a residential neighborhood to do this. I think you probably run a great event. I think this is probably wonderful. I think it's flopped in the wrong area.
Right, but I mean, Butternut is non-conforming where it is, and they bring in a lot of people to their events.
It's not a residential area.
No, it's less dense, much less dense.
It is less dense, but it's still.
I mean, the event where we had it last year in New Hampshire, it is just complete residential area. We actually hosted it at a country club, and so there's a lot of local
I guess you're
people.
lucky I'm not a select board member in New Hampshire then.
The food truck in the valley, that came to the fairgrounds, there was some food truck, something at the fairgrounds.
That's a completely different company, yeah, where Food Truck Festivals of New England is the name of that company, yeah.
I guess, I share Bill's concerns about really, the fact that this is being, used as as event place, and it's really not for that purpose. I mean, Rotary's different because it's part of our community, it's nonprofit, and it actually, really is geared towards families and community involvement. But I just see this as a slippery slope, and I tend to see this more as designated for, profit, and I do have grave concerns about 10,000, 12,000 people, and, at least 5 porta potties, that should be enough to have that amount of porta potties for 10 to 20,000 people. So
Yeah,
that's
we
one
would
of
probably have about
small.
20 porta potties.
So,
We wouldn't have 5 porta potties.
and I've been to the Green River
But,
Festival.
But I mean, again,
and I'm a fan
just
of
to,
that, but-
right, yeah, I mean, just to repeat what I was saying earlier, I mean, it's an airport, these are aircrafts. So, I mean, this, ideally, this is the best location, and it's just because you have, planes coming in and out, that's kind of what the balloons would need to do, and they need a space that's wide enough. We looked at Butternut. Butternut wouldn't be an ideal location. The fairgrounds also just isn't an ideal location, and
No, I understand, I have no problem with the balloons, actually, no matter what the email said, and I understand that. All the other stuff is what I have a problem with,
Right.
and the number of people it's gonna bring in. And the fact is that fireworks, which you're not gonna have, but it's on here in that neighborhood, and having, music, loud music, I just don't think it's a perfect location. I probably would go to it if you had it somewhere else, because I think it sounds like a lot of fun. I'm just concerned
Yeah,
about
I
the
mean, well,
location.
if you think about the fairgrounds too, I mean, there's houses right there. I mean, there's houses
No, I understand.
everywhere,
Fairgrounds is the easier.
Yeah,
So,
there's someone behind you to speak, so come on.
Actually, can I say one more thing?
Yeah, of course.
The other thing I wanted to make a point is, because I've been to the Bike and Fly, and it gets very, very, very hot. There's, no places for, getting out of the shade.
right, we wouldn't have a lot of.
And I've, had to leave, the Bike and Fly with my kids because it's just so hot. And if you think you're gonna have between 10,000 and 20,000 people drinking, and, really hot, and you have, porta potties, and I just think there's, it's just,
Right.
it could be a recipe for disaster. And I wanna support you, I just don't think this is probably the right place, and the right
Okay.
time to do it. So I would, that's another concern I have, is the heat and the amount of people and the fact that there's little shade. That's one thing that the Green River Festival has, has the canopy of trees that you can get out of that, but
Sure.
This
I
doesn't
mean, we would be
feel with the
renting multiple
pavements,
tents as
yeah.
well. I mean, it wouldn't just be wide open and no barrier and no coverage. And we would have seating, and we would have, we also would plan to hire an ambulance, and we would have the ambulance right on site, and a station, medic station.
do you have
as
any
well.
tents, or?
Yep. Yep,
You
we
seem
would
very
run.
organized. I don't think, it's not, it's just, I think, a general
Mhm.
concern about the size of the event. I think if you
Sure.
came to us and said 5,000, I don't think there would be as much hesitation.
I mean, I think it would be about 5,000 at a time, because, I mean, we're talking about 5 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Right.
So, I mean, that's throughout the day for 10,000 people, so it would probably be, a minor percentage of that at a time.
Ma'am, do
But,
you wanna come up and give your name and address and speak? Okay, thank you.
My name is Lana Israel, and I live at 54 Egremont Plain Road in Great Barrington, right abutting the airport. I can't even believe that you would consider doing this. This is our backyards. There are people around there. It's a quiet neighborhood, even though there are little small planes that take lessons and go off. This is a residential area. It's an agricultural area. It was never meant to be an entertainment area. We've lived in this house for many years, and yes, there is the bike thing, the bike rally and also the Rotary Club. That's a day with families, with food. There's one balloon, and it never seems to work. This is my backyard, and I think this is such a slippery slope. I can't even believe they're talking about 5,000 people, 10,000 people. Even if it was 1,000 people, it is a small space. There are people around there. We live there. This is an event that should be somewhere in a big venue. This is a small little airport, a small little space. And it's, for heaven's sakes, it's my backyard. I can't, it's not even just my backyard. Other people that live on there, on Seacon Crossroad, on Hurlburt. It is gonna, look at, I can't even, I'm an articulate person and I can't even speak because this is such an outrageous request. And I know there isn't one person in our whole community would think that it was a good idea. Also, it's just benefiting the airport and the people who are putting it on. It's a for-profit thing. This is a little tiny airport. Once in a while, there's a couple of helicopters. Once in a while, there's a couple of extra planes. And the little planes sit on the ground there with little covers over them. It's a small airport. It's, I don't.
You made your point.
I think
we
so.
understand. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Anyone else to speak? Eileen?
I have a question. Do I have to go up?
No, you're exempt from that rule.
Thank you. Does the airport have a special permit for entertainment purposes? I know it has been discussed.
They do not.
Do they need one, Chris?
That's what we're working on.
Well,
No, the airport.
no, the
itself.
airport,
Oh, the airport.
and I'm not gonna try to defend it, all I can say is, if it's a airport aviation-related event, they don't need a special permit.
And in her letter, Ann Frederick said that the expense required for police and fire departments will be paid for by the town.
No, that's not true.
Okay.
At least for the police department, it gets, we would require it to be paid at least 50% ahead of time, if not all of it, and it's paid by the venue. Yeah. Okay, do you have a motion?
No one wants to make a motion.
No?
Is it okay if I say one more thing?
Of course.
Okay, sure, so I also do wanna just remind everyone that all of the vendors that we have, involved in this event, so we would probably have about like 40 to 50 craft vendors, about, maybe 20 food trucks. All of these are local businesses. So these are all people who are coming here to make money and to make a living, and these are people who rely on events like this to, to pretty much live. In addition, we have, admission is free for kids, so this is a very family-oriented event. We aren't trying to, we haven't had any experiences in the past where there's over drinking, where there's people who are, upset or, anything negative happening. We've had people, last year we had 2 people get married at this event. So, I think that speaks for itself that people really, love this type of thing. It's, it's beautiful. Even like the first email you read said the person was going on about how beautiful it is, how much fun they had enjoying that festival in New Mexico, which is the biggest balloon festival in the world. And some of these people they've had this on their bucket list their whole lives, and some people, it's something they want to do before they die. That's what a bucket list is. So, a lot of people really like these events, and that's why we put them on. And we have a really good time putting them on, and people really enjoy them, so.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion,
Yes, please.
that we deny the temporary one-day weekday entertainment license for the FAP event on August 23rd and 24th.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Did you wanna do them both at once? Sunday license also?
No,
Okay.
well,
I think my kids and my neighbors' kids are so excited about these hot air balloons. But I think ultimately what we're hearing from our community and what we're feeling, and I think I'm maybe speaking for everybody else, but I think I've heard it, is that we just feel like maybe this is just too big for our town.
no, not for the town,
For the space.
For the airport.
For the space, and I
Yeah.
think in that, saying that you've looked at other spaces that are bigger and they don't work for your event, that in some way, unfortunately, it's maybe just not the.
Well, it doesn't have to do with the size, it has to do with the layout
Yeah.
and the
Right.
safety concern, because if you look at Ski Butternut, it's just surrounded by giant hills.
Right.
The airport's
So this is
different.
the perfect layout for you,
Right.
but it's not the perfect
Yeah.
layout for us, so unfortunately, it sounds.
Okay.
Yeah, because I would work with you to
Because-
find another location in town. I think the
right.
town's fine.
It just seems strange too, because the airport invited us to come and do this at the airport. I mean, the people who
Yeah.
own the airport invited us to do this. It's not like,
Right.
you know, we're trying to overthrow the airport.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
And this isn't,
Mhm.
this is nothing against you or what you do, because it looks
Mhm.
very, very professional. It just doesn't feel
Okay.
like the right fit there, which is, as I said, part of me is devastated because I was so excited about, like,
Mhm.
I'm gonna camp in the yard and I'm gonna go out with my kids and wake them up at 5 a.m. and see the balloons, but I have to say that I agree with the rest of the board on this.
So we have a motion and a second to deny. Roll call vote, Lee?
I,
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, Bill?
Aye.
Sorry. Do you want us to take up the Sunday one? That would seem to be counterproductive.
Oh, yeah, no, I guess.
Okay, so we'll skip over the Sunday one.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.